In this next video, what we're going to discuss is how to look at your web analytics and how to set that up when you first get your website. One of the nice things about HostGator hosted websites is they actually do track your website statistics. So what you want to do is scroll down till you see the Logs tab, LOGS, and there's two of them that you really want to look at. There's Webalizer and then there's AW Stats. And then you could also integrate this with Google Analytics, but that's an entirely different training. So we're going to look at the control panel oriented website traffic analyzers. So we're going to choose Webalizer first. And what it's going to do here is it's going to pull up, the different domains that you have here. So you can just kind of look and see, what your website statistics have been depending on the website here. So this tool will give you just kind of a rough idea, like for September 2012, it tells you, on average, this particular website was getting, let's say, so 444 visitors, and on average hits per day, 141 hits. One thing to keep in mind when you're actually looking at your website logs is you really want to look at actual website visits or unique visitors. That's going to be the most important category. So one thing to keep in mind, Webalizer generally isn't the best one for kind of telling you your unique visitors. We'll show you the other one as well. But this one in particular does a pretty good job of actually showing you what pages, like your top 30 URLs, so you know kind of like, hey, pet insurance for golden retrievers is getting, is using the most space, but my homepage is getting the most hits, or family daycare guest book is my most popular blog post, for example. So that kind of just gives you, something to look at. So you can go to your site and say, oh wow, that's like my most popular article post. And this is just an example website, just so you can kind of see how this works. But it does a good job of telling you what pages on your site are getting the most views. And this is found, it's called Webalizer, and it's found inside your CPanel under Logs. It also tells you what pages people are leaving from the most. Generally, it's going to match up with what pages have the most views. But sometimes there might be pages that don't get a lot of views that actually have an extremely high bounce rate, so maybe you need to adjust something on that. So these just give you some interesting insight, into what's going on with your website. Generally speaking, you really just want to look at, what's going on as far as, how much traffic are you actually getting, how much unique traffic. That's probably the most important thing, and then get a rough idea as to where your traffic's coming from. Is it the United States? Is it other countries? Because some countries don't convert as well as others, and a variety of different things. The total refers. This actually tells you how many times, what actual pages on the internet are actually referring to your website. So you kind of want to see where people are finding, your website the most. Is it Google? Is it a press release? Those kinds of things can be picked up from all that. So we'll go back here to our cPanel. We'll click on Home, and we're going to take a look at the other option that is available under Logs, and that is AW Stats or AW Stats. And your new domain generally is not going to show up under statistics until it's been there for 24 to 48 hours. So keep that in mind and don't panic if you don't see it right away. But this is how you read it. So we'll just go here to View just to get an idea on this particular website. It'll tell you the reporting period. This one's a lot easier to read. So you can go back to September 2012 if you want to. And again, this is just an example website. You see 202 unique visitors. You see 202 unique visitors. You see 404 number of visitors. And basically what that means is that 2 visitors per visitor. And a unique visitor means a person from a unique computer. So it's, if you're at your website, let's say you're working on your website, and you visit your website 10 times, throughout the day as you work on it, add blog posts, maybe look at your website, those kinds of things, that's going to count as 10 visits. but it's only going to count as one unique visitor. So that's why it's important when you're looking at your website stats, especially within AW stats here inside your cPanel, is take a look at your unique visitors so you kind of get a very good idea of what's going on. They also do a good monthly history breakdown inside here, so you can actually see how many visitors, unique visitors, and number of visitors are you seeing per month. Now, this statistic also is important as well. This is the page views, especially if you have a blog. It's more important than other things. Like if you just have a squeeze page, which is sole purpose, or a sales page, which only is like a one page and maybe has like contact us, you're probably not going to see a lot of people going to different pages when they visit. But if you do have a blog or you have a website that sells physical products and people need to browse through your website, you want to see your pages up, because that means people are actually coming to your website and they're sticking around long enough to look at different blog posts, look at different products, look at different pages on your site. So, a good rule of thumb here, there's 144 unique visitors came in January of 2012, and there's 605 pages. So that means for every unique visitor, they looked at 4 or 5 pages. So that's kind of what that statistic tells you, and it does a really good job of the monthly history, just so you can really see on a top level view. Okay, this is what the website traffic looks like over the year, and if you really want to analyze it, you could come up here and choose a different reporting period, just to see where traffic's at for a different reporting period like June, or you can kind of bounce around there as well. So if you scroll down here, it'll tell you, as far as the days of the month go, tell you what your website visitors looks like for that month. So your number of visits, total visits, it's going to show the pages. Hits is one of those things you don't necessarily, you can almost ignore when it comes to web traffic. It used to be like the holy grail where everybody was all about, oh, you got to have millions of hits to your website and all this stuff. Hits really don't mean as much, very much at all. It's all about the unique visitors, the number of pages those visitors are looking at, because it tells you people are interacting on your site. Hits, basically every time a file is loaded, whether it's a picture, a different background, those kinds of things, that will actually count as a hit. So one visit to your website could mean 10 hits. So that's really not the best indicator to really look at. So keep that in mind when you're analyzing your web stats. Days of the week. This will tell you, like throughout the month of June, on Monday, this was the Mondays, Tuesdays. So like basically you could look at this quickly and say, hey, on Tuesday I get the most visitors, on average. Now obviously you want to make sure this is just a very sample website that we're going off of here. Hours, it tells you by hour when most people are viewing your website based on Army time. So this would be like 11 o'clock Central Time or Eastern Time, depending on where your website is set up as. And then this will give you a breakdown of your top countries. Most of the time, you really want to get a good view of, okay, are these mostly English speaking countries, or these mostly countries that are related to my niche, that maybe you are targeting a different niche in a different language, and that's great. And maybe in particular what markets are best for you. If you have a website that targets English speaking, obviously you want to make sure you're reaching the right audience most of the time, and you can see here this one does. As far as this goes, you can typically ignore this. Kind of gives you a rough, you don't really need to know too much about all the IPs and stuff that are being pulled. The visits duration, this one's really important. This kind of tells you how long people are really sticking around. You've got the page view indicator, which means they're bouncing around, but 0 to 30 seconds. And again, this is just a very sample website. It's made up of it's just an old blog that's just made up a bunch of different blog posts on random topics, and it's actually used for testing purposes and training. But you can see here 94.4% leave the website within 0 to 30 seconds, meaning there's not a lot on this website to engage visitors. So when you look at your AW stats, look at your visit duration so you understand what that all means. File type, you don't really need to do too much here. Basically all this does is tell you, are more people downloading PDFs, what kind of files on your site. Typically that one you don't need to worry so much about. The visit duration is again really important. The other one, this tells you your top 25 URLs, so you can kind of see which ones are your top blog posts and those kinds of things. And this will kind of help you maybe write new content. Maybe you focus more on those actual pages because you know what pages are getting you traffic. Browsers, this is actually semi-important because it's good to know. Are more people using Internet Explorer? Are they using Firefox? When you see a high, percentage, you may want to check out that browser. And so say, hey, there's 6% using the Opera, the Mozilla browser. How's my website look in Mozilla? And so maybe you can check that browser out to get an idea. Um, there's 0.6% even using Netscape still. Obviously you're not going to be able to get Netscape to see how that's working, but there are people still using that. But this just gives you a rough idea. Really, the top two is what's most concerning, but it's also good to know where other people are finding you. And then the next thing to really look at as you scroll down here on the left hand side, you've got some other things you can look at. The refers, this tells you the referring search engines. So on the left side under refers, it'll tell you, okay, Google referred more than Microsoft and Bing, which is also Yahoo now. Referring sites, this will actually tell you what websites and from what pages people are actually finding you from. So that's good when you're doing website traffic, things like articles, press releases, social bookmarking, those kind of things. You know where your traffic's coming from, and are your campaigns being effective. Search, this does a really good job of telling you what search key phrases people are actually finding you for. This again, very simple website. It's got everything from daycare to dogs and kids, and it's just a very random website. But you can see here, here's 4 key phrases, and you could say, okay, those are the top phrases for that month. Let's look at what August was. Okay, so more people are looking at those keywords. Home insurance and golden retrievers was another one that month. So you can kind of see how you can see, okay, what keywords are people actually finding me for, and then it tells you, hey, maybe I need to pursue another blog post on these if I'm getting 50 people a month finding me for that phrase. So those are good things. That's how you use AW stats. Personally, I think it's a lot easier to look at than the other one, but just wanted to point this out. Most importantly, look at your unique visitors. And again, all this is found in your cPanel. Look under logs, and that's how you actually access your website statistics. So it's under cPanel, and look for logs, which will scroll down here. There it is, and click on AW stats, and then choose the little view button right next to the domain that you're working with, so you can kind of get an idea of what your website traffic is looking like.